Hello and welcome everyone. I am Dhawal Deshpande, founder and CEO of Codigo Idea. It's an edtech startup in IT domain. In the previous video, we have discussed about the strings. Hope you have understood it. If you haven't watched the video yet, link is given into the description below. And if you have any doubts or questions related to it, you can connect with us on Discord, link to which is given in the description below. So today we are here to understand Python lists, its working, implementation, and also we are going to solve some of the questions. So for that, let's move on to our coding environment. So here we are going to use VS Code as our code editor, right? And let's start with list. So what exactly list is? So first of all, list is a sequential data type, right? And it contains comma separated objects, and also we enclose those comma separated objects in square bracket. So when we define a list in Python, what we have to do is we have to take a variable, right? And we have to use the square bracket in which we are going to use the object that we are going to store in this particular list. Let's say we are taking 4 objects for now. So this is our list, right? To print the list or get an output of it, what we have to do is we have to use the print function and we have to pass the variable. And when we run it, we get our list as an output. Okay, so this is how we define a list in Python and print a list on our terminal. So moving forward, what we have to understand while learning Python list are its characteristics, right? So let's go ahead, move on and check the characteristics of our list, right? So first characteristic that we are going to understand is that they are ordered, right? This is the first characteristic. And what do we mean by ordered, right? So we understood that list is a sequential data type and it contains objects, right? But not any objects, but list is an ordered collection of objects. The order in which you specify the element when you define a list is the characteristic of that list and is maintained for the list's lifetime, right? So in simple words, so we understood what exactly the definition is of ordered objects, right? But let's see, what does that mean? We have one list, right? We have another list and it contains same objects but in different position, right? If we will see, we can say both the lists are the same, right? No, but it's wrong. Both the lists are not the same. If we go ahead and check if A equal to B, if we go ahead and run this program, every time we are going to get false as a answer. Why? Because A and B are not the same. List A have a separate characteristic of the object and list B have a separate characteristics of the object. However, object of both the lists are the same. So you have to keep in mind that lists are not just a collection but the ordered collection of the object, right? Moving forward, the next thing or the next characteristic of list is that they can contain arbitrary objects. Now what does that mean, right? If we have seen that we have made a list here, right? And in the list the objects that we have passed on are of same type, right? Here it's integer, but we can also pass strings, sorry, also we can pass float as well. Apart from these, we can also pass functions, classes and modules, right? And if we print this and run, it won't give us any error. Why? Because list can contain arbitrary objects, right? So it's not necessary that we are when we are creating a list, all the objects that we are putting into the list are of same data type. It's not necessary, right? So next thing, as we have seen, list can contain different data types, right? And apart from that, it can contain n number of objects, right? Starting from 0, we can also create an empty list. If we go ahead and delete all the objects that are present over here in our list, right, and then print, it will give us an empty list over here, right? Next thing, next small feature or property of list is that it can contain multiple instances or duplicates. The list can contain duplicate objects as well. See, for an example, if we are passing only one, right, and when we run this program, it will give us all the instances of the object that we have passed or stored in the list. Okay, moving forward, the next property of list is that we can use index to access the elements or objects in the list. This property is absolutely similar to the indexing that we have learned back in the last video while learning or understanding strings, right? So with indexing, we are also going to check slicing as well, right? So when we create a list, every object, or we can say we can access every object with a specific numeric value, right, or the place value. Here in list, index also starts with 0 as it is 0 base, same as string. If you haven't understood that concept that we have actually discussed while understanding strings, you can check out the video, and the link for the video is given in the description below. Moving forward, we know that the index starts from 0, right? And positive index is moves from left to right. To understand, let's go ahead and understand index. right? So for that, let's go and open Paint. Here we have 5 elements, right? And this is the list. Here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are the value that we are storing in the list. When we are talking about positive index, they move from left to right, starting with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Second thing, there is one more index which is negative index. It goes from right to left and it starts from -1, -2, -3, -4 and -5. To access these particular value, let's say we need only 3, we need to print only 3 from the list, right? So for that we can use 2 as an index or -3 as an index. Let's check how we can do that. So we need to print 3, only 3. So we'll use print A, and here the index is 2, right? So we will pass on 2 and we'll run the program. We got it. Similarly, when we and now let's go ahead and check the negative indexing. So in negative indexing we have -3. So in place of 2, if I'll pass -3, it will give us the same result, that is 3. So this is a small concept of indexing. However, it is it's a small concept, but we use this concept now and then while working around with lists, right? So moving forward, the next thing is slicing. So slicing here works absolutely same or similar to that we have understood in strings, right? So let's say we have to divide our list in 2 parts, right? First we have to show the first part will contain from these 3 elements and the second part will contain last 2 elements. So for that, what we will do, we will start with the starting point. We are starting from the very first index, so it will be 0. Then we are moving on towards 0, 1 and 2, right? So here we have to mention the ending point is 3. Why 3? Because it when we are slicing a sequential data type, the ending point or the ending index that we pass on is excluded, right? So now moving forward, we will take a second statement and in which we will start from 4 and we are not going to pass any ending point. Why? Because we have to cover all the elements till the end. Let's say we go ahead and add one more element, right? And when we run this program, we get okay, so sorry, here the starting point will be 3, right? And then when we go ahead and run, we get 2 parts, right? First one, so basically what we have done is we have divided this particular list in 2 parts, that's it, right? So this is the slicing part. There is one more thing in slicing, which is step or stride, right? So here what we will do is we are going to print a list from the very first index till the last. However, we are going to skip one character every time. So when we go ahead and run this, here you can see as we have passed on a step or a stride, that is 2. So the first element we got it. Now we have skipped the second element. Then we got the third element. Again, we have skipped the next element and got the third element again, right? So this is the usage or utilization of step. So here, one more thing. If I need to go ahead and reverse the list, I just need to pass on the step as -1. So now it will provide us an output which is the reverse of our list. If we'll go ahead and run this program, we will get a reverse list. So these are the basics of indexing and slicing that we need to understand, right? There's just one more thing here. In string, whenever, so basically there is one thing, the syntax that I want to refer is like this, right? So let's say if we have a string Python, correct? We have a list, we have a string, right? Now if we print, we will get this particular string as it is. If we'll go ahead and run, see, right? But now if we print this as our list, right, we are going to get the list itself, right? But there is one thing here, when we pass on s bracket with colon, it is the same string. But if we go ahead and say that a and a, this instance a bracket colon, these two things are different. How? Because here we have a as our list, right? However, this is returning our list itself, but it is not the same. This particular statement is returning a copy of our list. Copy of our list. So this list and this particular instance are not the same. Moving on to the next part. So let's quickly go ahead and let me copy this. Sorry. Comment this off. Now what we are going to understand, let's check some of the operators that we are going to work around with, right? So first operator is in, and within there is one operator which is not in, right? So this is our list. Let's say we have to check that whether a specific element or object is present in our list or not. Let's say we have to check whether 5 is in our list or not. So if 5 in a, print true, sorry, else print false, correct? So when we run this program, we are going to get true. Why? Because what this operator is doing, it is checking if this particular object is present in our list or not, right? Moving forward, if we go ahead and change this 5 to 7, as 7 is not in the list, right, and we run this program, we are going to get false as an output, right? Similarly, if we change our operator from in to not in, right, And now if we go ahead and run it, right, so now what our code will do, it will check whether 7 is not present in list, right? So 7, absolutely we can see 7 is not there in our list, right? So when we run this program, it will give us true as the answer, right? If we go ahead and change it to 4, again it will check whether 4 is not present in our list. However, that is false, right? So it will give us the answer false. So this is the first two operators that we should understand, right? Moving forward, the next operator are concatenation operator, that is the plus sign, right? And replication, it is the asterisk sign. So we have our list, and let's say we have to add or concatenate some items or objects to our list, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to it's print, then a concatenate will we will again generate a list over here, right? And let's say we are adding 99, 100 and 101. If we go ahead and run this command, you will see we got a list in which these particular objects are added to our list. This is how we use the concatenation or arithmetic addition operator with list. The second thing is replication. So as per the name suggests, it replicates our list. Whatever the value that we are passing on after the replication operator, right? Let's say it's 2. So what it will do is it will provide us with 2 instances of our list, right? So if we run, we can see that this is the first instance, that is 1 2 3 4 till 6, and this is the second instance. So here what we are doing, we are just replicating the given list, right? So now moving forward, I hope you guys are understanding. If you feel like you are unable to understand or there are some doubts, you need to ask some questions, what you can do is you can provide your questions into the comments, or directly you can join our Discord, right? And we are there, we are available over there 24/7. You can ask your questions anytime, right? We have a very good growing community, a very new community for every IT professional and student, right? So there are different professionals who are there with who are actually holding experiences like more than 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, etc. There are also some students who are absolutely new from class 12th, first year in engineering, BSc, BCA, etc. Even we have some people who are from PhDs as well. So we are trying, exactly we are trying? We are trying to make a community where everyone can come, explore new technologies, understand them, have fun while learning, right? So need not to worry. What you have to do is you have to just visit the link for the Discord, which is given into the description below, right? And you will be able to see our community, right? So no worries, we are there to help you out. Moving forward, the next thing that we will understand are some functions. The first function is len. So len stands for length. So what it does is it provides the length or number of objects present in our list. Second function is it's men. What it does is it returns the object with the lowest value. Similarly, the next function is max. As the name suggests, it gives us the object with a value who has a value which is the largest. So if we go ahead and just print len of a, right, it will give us the length of the list or number of objects present in the list. So here we have 6 objects in our list A, right? Next thing is min, right? So it will provide us the object with the least value or the smallest value, right, which is 1. If we go ahead and change it to max, it will give us the value which is the largest in amongst the object. So it is providing us with 6, right? So these are some of the basic operators and functions that you should understand, right, and they will help you across while working around with lists. Now the next thing or the next characteristic of the list is they can be nested. They can be nested. So what does that mean? It means that there can be sublists inside a list. What I am saying here is, just give me a minute, I'll quickly delete this and I'll copy paste. So this is our list, right? Now we want to make a nested list. So we will make a nested list over here. So now you can see there is a list, which is this list, which is inside our list A, right? So if we go ahead and print, let's say A of 1, it will give us the sublist. How? Let's see here, because at the index 1 we have a new data type which is list this. If we go ahead and change it to 2, we will get the output as 5, right? But now what we are getting, we can access the sublist, right? But let's say I have to access the value inside the sublist. What should I do, right? So for that we need one more bracket, right? And what we are going to pass over here is the index of our sublist. So if I go with 0, the value that I'm going to get in return is 2. Why? Because for the list at position 1 or index 1, what we have to check is for the value which is at index 0. So when we run it, we'll get 2. If we'll change it to 1, right? So again, what we are doing, we are printing the object which is at index of 1, right, for the list A, right, and inside that at index of 1. So when we run it, we'll get 3, right? So this is the concept of nesting a list and accessing the value of nested lists, right? So moving forward, the next thing, right, the next thing is that the next characteristic is that lists are mutable. Mutable means we can make changes in our list. Let's say I have to make changes at position 1, right, and what I'm doing is I'm passing on a string, a singleton string, right? So when I go ahead and print this particular value, right, no, not right now, we are not going to use index as if right now. What we are going to do is we are going to print the list itself. So what it will do is it will change the value of at index 1, that is the sublist, to our string. So when we go ahead and run it, we will see that at index of 1 we are getting a string over here, correct? So this means we can make changes once, not once, but even after we have defined a list, right? Moving forward, so now as we have seen that we are using positive index to make changes, right? Also we can use negative indexes as well. So now if I'll pass -1, what it will give us a new string with the last new list with the last object changed to a string, right? Here it is. So now moving forward, what we have to discuss are some of the functions, some of the functions that we actually use while working with our list, right? So let's start with those functions. So now the first function that we are going to understand is append, right? So append, and its syntax is a, which is the list, dot append, and inside the bracket we have to pass an object, correct? So this object will be added to our list. So using append we can add the objects, but it will be added at the end of the list. Let's say, let's remove the sublist over here, right? We will call this the a dot append, and let's say we are passing 100 over here, right? And we are getting an output of our list. So if we'll run it, we will see the object has been added to the end of the list, right? So this is how the append function works. The next function that we are going to understand is extend. So basically extend is the same as append. However, the syntax is almost the same, but instead of an object, what we do, we pass on an iterable, let's say a string or a list, right? So here instead of append it will be extend. So now let's check what happens if we just pass on a simple number, right? If we'll run it, it will give us an error. What the error is that int object is not iterable. So what we have to do is we have to pass a string or a list over here, right? So for that, what we will do, we'll pass a list, right? And now if we'll go ahead and run it, we are able to see we are getting the object at the end, right? So in append and extend, here there is a small difference. In append we are passing on object, in extend we are passing on iterables, right? So now the next function is insert. syntax is a dot insert, and we are going to pass two things over here, right? The first thing is the index. So we have to pass where we are going to insert the new object, right? So, and the second thing is object. So now let's say here we are inserting say an index of 5 and an object, let's say 88, and we go ahead and print it, we will get a new list with the specific object inserted at the specific index, right? Now next function is remove. So for the syntax it will be a dot remove, right? And inside the remove we are going to pass the object that we need to remove. Let's say we want to remove 88, and we go ahead and run. So here it is giving us a error. The error is list.remove x, so x not in the list. Why? Because we haven't added 88 into it. But if we go ahead and do 5, it will remove 5 from the list and it will give us an output here. Moving on to the next function, which is pop. Pop also works similar to that of remove, right? So the syntax is a dot pop, and index equal to -1 is the default, right? So instead of passing anything in pop, what pop will do, it will remove the last element of our list. We don't need to pass on any argument here in this particular function of pop. So when we go ahead and run it, we will see the last object from the list has been removed or popped out, right? Now these were the functions that we should understand. Why? Because these functions actually help us as a developer, right, while working around with lists with Python, right? So now the last characteristic of list is they are dynamic. So what does that mean, right? So we at the beginning we have seen some characteristics of Python lists, right? We have seen many examples till now, right? So we can see that item can be added, removed, even lists can be extended, or we can shrink using these particular functions and other characteristics that we have come across with. We can use indexing, we can use slicing as well. So all these characteristics and functionalities combined together, right, we can say that this particular data type, that is list, is dynamic in nature, right? So moving forward, now we have understood what exactly lists are, how we can access the list items, right? However, we haven't discussed the looping, right? Correct. So last thing that we are going to understand is looping in a list. It's absolutely same as the string. So we have a list. So now looping, let's say we have to print all the elements or objects present in the list one by one. So for that we'll do for I in A print I. Correct. Now if we'll run it, let me extend it. Yeah. So you will able to see here that by printing we got all the objects, right? Now there is one more thing what that we can do. Instead of going with that, we'll go range length of A and print A of I. So when we do this, we'll get the same answer. So these are the two type of looping that we do in our list. Now let's move on to our questions that we are going to solve today. Right, they are absolutely simple questions, 10 questions, right, that we are going to solve. So for that, let's move on to our questions. So these are the questions. Let me go ahead and word wrap them quickly. Yeah. So in list, we'll go ahead and make a file, question1.py, as py is the extension of the file, right? And related to this particular text and the code that we are actually doing right now and all the questions, you will able to check all those in the link which is given into the description below. It is our GitHub repository. From there you can access it, right? If you come across with some different solutions for the questions that we are doing, feel free to go ahead and comment it, right? Or you can connect with us on our Discord. For that also, link is given into the description below, right? So now let's check first question. So the first question is, write a Python program to sum all the item in the list, right? So this is our question one. Okay, so let's take a list. Let's make a list. Let's say A is our list. It contains 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. Now what we have to do, we have to add all the numbers, right? We know how we read objects one by one from the list. It is we use for loop, right? So for that we will use for I in A. Now we have to add it, right? So let's go with sum equal to sum plus I. And at last what we are going to do is print sum, right? So now let's run it. So here we are getting a error which is unsupported operand type for plus. Okay, so here we need sum equal to 0. We'll go ahead and quickly run it. we are getting our answer, right? So what we have done, we have came up with a list, then we created a variable, an integer variable, then we ran a for loop to collect all the values or all the objects one by one, right? And then what we have done, we have added those objects to our integer variable, that is sum, and at last we have given an output of our variable, right? So this is the simplest way to do that, right? There is one more thing that we can do. If we go ahead and do this, there is a function which is sum, right? And if we'll print sum a, we will be getting the same answer. So instead of writing these steps, we can directly use our sum function. So let me make a note of it. We can use sum function instead of writing the code, right? Hope you have understood. If you feel like there is some issue or it's a bit tough, feel free to connect with us. We are there to help you out. And if you feel like you need one-on-one sessions as well, we are there to help you out. Okay, so what you have to do, you just have to go ahead and visit the Discord link which is given there in the description below, right? Join our community and just pitch in your question, your query. We are there to help you out, right? So now moving forward, let's check the second question, right? So here it is: write a Python program to get a list sorted in increasing order by the last element in each tuple. Okay, so even though we haven't actually understood or we haven't discussed about tuple, need not to worry, I'll explain it in the next video. For this particular session, what we have to do, we will just understand how we make a tuple, right? So moving forward, what we are going to do is we are going to quickly create a new file. It will be question2.py. This is our question that we are going to discuss. So now what we need a list. So we know that this is how we define a list. Now to define a tuple, we use simple brackets or parentheses. So here we will make a list of some of the tuples, right? Let's say we are just creating 3 tuples, right? Now we have created what we need. Now what we have to do is write a Python program to get a list. We have already got a list, but it should be sorted in increasing order by the last element. So in the tuple, the last element is 3, 2 and 4. So now we have to compare all these 3 elements, the last elements of the tuple, right? So now for that, let's see what should be done here, right? So let's work around with some function, right? I do know we haven't discussed it, right? We are going to understand functions and their functionalities in depth in the later videos, but for now just understand the syntax, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just making a function right here. So this is how we make function. Now there is one more function. We will use def as a keyword, then sort, then we are going to pass on a variable, then return. So sorted is also a function here, right? We are going to discuss these functions in depth, right, in the later videos. Oh, I'm so sorry, it will be sort. Yeah, so now the answer that we need, let's quickly go ahead and check whether it's running correctly or not. So here you will see that we have sorted our objects according to the last value, right, last element in each tuple. So 2, 3 and 4. Need not to worry, I do understand that we have came across with tuples functions as well, and we haven't discussed it yet. So need not to worry, we are going to discuss all these things in the later or coming videos, right? So moving forward, let's check the third question. The third question is write a Python program to print a specified list after removing the 0th, 4th and 5th element. Okay, so for that, what we are going to do, first of all, we are going to make a new file. Right, and this is our question. Now we need a list. So this is our list. Now what we have to do is we have to remove 0th, 4th and 5th element, right? So right now we have understood this. There is a function which is remove, right? Can we use that remove function here? Let's see. Let's quickly go ahead and see. So we need to remove the first element, fourth element and fifth element, right? Now for I in range, so here we will take range of len a So now what we are doing is we are checking I or taking index, right? What we have done here is we have made a new list, right, where we have put 0, 4 and 5 because we have to remove those elements. Now what we have to do is we have to check if in b a dot remove, we have just seen this, right, a dot remove, and we have to pass on the object, correct? So now here what we are going to do is we are going to pass on the object directly, and then what we are going to do is print, and it will print a. So now if we go ahead and run this program, it will give us this specific output. That means our program is running correctly, right? So moving on to the next question, that is question number 4. So now here what we have to do is write a Python program to generate a 6 by 4 by 3 3D array whose each element is a asterisk. I'll quickly go ahead and make a new file. Here is our question. Now what we have to do, we have to make a 3D array, right? And to make the 3D array, what we have to do is we have to make a array which is 6 by 4 by 3 and all the elements are asterisk. So for that, see, now there is something which will be very new to you, right? So I'll quickly go ahead and so this is the logic that we are going to put to make a 3D array. So what exactly we are doing, we are putting the range value, again the range value. So first range value is 3, that is for row, second one is for the column, third one is for the column, right? So after that, if we print L over here and run it, what are we getting? So this is one list, right, with 6 elements, correct? Now this is the second list with 4 elements, right? So now we have inserted asterisks 6 times, right? Now what we are doing, we have inserted this list 4 times. Now the third list and the final list, it will contain these 2 lists for 3 times. So here we can see that this is the first instance, right? This is the second instance, and this is the last and third instance of the provided lists. If you don't understand what exactly this concept is, please feel free to connect with us in our Discord community, and we will be very happy to help you out, right? So moving forward, let's see the next question, that is write a Python program to access the index of a list. So here what it is very easy, right? What we have to do, we just have to access the index of a list, right? So now for that we will make a new file with extension of py, and this is our question. Let's say we have a list of 100, 200, 300, 400 and 500. Now we have to access the index of this particular list, right? So for that, for I in range len of a, right? Then print I as the index, then we'll provide this, and then we'll provide a of I. So it will print index, then colon, then value present on that particular index. So if we'll run it, we'll see this. At 0th index it's 100, for index 1 it's 200, and so on. Moving on to the next question, that is 6th. It is write a Python program to generate all sublist of a list. So here we're going to make new file py, the question, let's say we have a list which is say 1, 2, 3, and we have to generate all the sublist of this particular list, right? So for that we need to import something, right? It's a module, and the module is from we have to import combination. Right now what we are going to do is we are going to define a new function. Let's call it sub, pass 1 to it, then we will come up with, let's see, s, and it will be our empty list. Then we are going to call for in range the range will start from 0 and it will go till length of, sorry, this is a, it will be a and plus 1. Here we are going to assign a new list. T will be our new list, right? And in that we'll pass on list, then inside this we're passing x. Now what exactly is x? So for x in combination of L comma I. So if length of this new list is greater than 0, then it will be s dot extend temp. It will be t. Now we just have to call this functions. For that it will be print sub and it will be A, right? So now what exactly we have done, right? So here it is our list. What we have to do is we have to generate all the sublists possible using these particular objects from list A, right? We have made a function, right? We have made a new list in which we are going to nest all the sublists that we are going to generate. Now from this particular block of code, what it does is it takes the element one by one, right? And after that, what they are doing, they are making list out of it, right? By different combinations. So when we go ahead and run this, just give me a minute. Yeah. So here you are going to see the first list is empty list, right? Second one, these three are the single list. These three are the combination of these three elements and objects, and the last one is the list itself. If you feel like you haven't understood, right? Yeah, I do understand there are many things, new modules, some new function like combinations, new way to make a list here in line 7. Yeah, it can be overwhelming, but need not to worry. If you find yourself like you are not able to understand what exactly is this, right, and you need some more help, feel free to connect with us onto our community, Discord community, and the link for which is given into the description below, right? So now moving forward, the next question. The next question is, write a Python program to split a list into different variables. Now we have to split a list. Let's see how we can do that. Sorry. Question 7.py. This is our question. Yeah. So for this question, I have a separate list over here, right? Yeah. So this is our list. This is the first value, this is the second value, and this is the third value or object which is present in our list, right? So now what we have to do is we have to split the list into different variables. So now for that, what we are going to do is, it's very easy. Even though I also, for the very first time when I tried these kind of questions, I got overwhelmed, but the concept is very easy over here. What we need to do is we just need to come up with not two, but three variables. Let's say v1 is 1, then v2 is the second, and v3 is the third, and this is our list. And done. What we have done over here is we have actually split this particular list into three values. If we go ahead and print it, let's say I'm printing just v1, right? And if I run this program, I will get the first instance or the first object present in our list. Similarly, if I go ahead and print v2 and v3, right, we will get all the values of the objects one by one. See, first object, second object, and third object, and we can continue it as much as we want, right? So this is this. Let's check the next question. which is write a Python program to insert an element before each element of the list. Now this question is a good question, right? So it will be like question number 8. This is our question. So here what we have to do is we say we have a list, right? So let's say we have a list of a equal to 1 comma 2 comma 3 4, and this is our list now, and we have a variable. Let's say a variable let's say we have to insert c. So c should come before 1, then 2, 3, 4, right? So for that, what exactly are we going to do, right? So again, we are going to make a new list, and in that we'll take a variable, let's say v for I in a, for v in and after that I'm going to print a. That's it. So what exactly we are doing here? We are going to print c in front of every single element over here. So if we go ahead and run, see, it's before 1, 2, 3 and 4. So for this, I am not going to give you the logic, right? What I will suggest you is to explore this topic, and why I have used 2 for loops over here, right? And what exactly I have done. If you come across the valid explanation for this particular logic, please tell us in the comments below, right? Take it as your assignment. Okay, so moving on to the next question. Next question is question number 9. It is write a Python program to create a list of empty dictionary. Okay, so again, we haven't learned or discussed about dictionaries, right? So need not to worry what dictionary is. It's also we can say it's a kind of or a different type of sequential data itself, right? However, that is more towards the mapping end. So need not to worry, we are going to discuss all these topics in details with questions, right? So now for now let's quickly go ahead and see how we are going to solve this question. So to solve this question, actually it's very easy. First of all, dictionary. To make a dictionary, what we need to do is we need to assign, so this is the empty dictionary, right? This is the syntax for dictionary. Syntax for dictionary. Okay, so now what we have to do is we need to make a list. So now to make a list, let's say a, and it should be list of empty dictionaries. So this will be the empty dictionary, right? And let's say we need 4 of it, right? Now if I go ahead and print a, what I'll get a list of 4 empty dictionaries, right? So if we'll go ahead and check here, see, we got a list, and in the list we got 4 empty dictionaries. And if we change this variable, let's say I have came up around with 7 and I run this program, I'll get a list of 7 empty dictionaries. So the repetition or replication in the list we have understood while we were discussing about the characteristics. This is how we use it, right? So now moving forward, we'll go up and check the last question, which is write a Python program to remove consecutive duplicates of a given list. Okay. So I have a list for it. Let's say it's A equals. So this is our list, right? So now we are going to import something, right? There, it's a new module. Need not to worry. We are going to discuss all these modules in details, right? So from it tools, and we have to import. Import group by. Correct, we have our list, right? So now we need to remove the consecutive duplicates. So for that, what are we going to do here? Let's say a new variable, and we are going to make a list. Then we are going to for I in group by A, right? And to print T. Now if we'll go ahead and run it, we're going to get our consecutive duplicates removed. However, this particular 4 is not consecutive duplicate. It is duplicate, but it is not the consecutive duplicate. That's why we have this particular code haven't removed this 4, right? So now we have completed the list, right? And if you feel like there is some topics or some questions that you want a video on, connect with us. Feel free to tell us how we can help you out. Right, join into our community and you can explore all type of technologies. So now what we are planning, we are actually planning to come up with videos on different technologies like web development, Linux, ethical hacking, uh, software development, software engineering, and many more. So stay tuned and thank you for joining.